Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the live game review. Watford 0, Everton 0 last night at Vicarage Road. Game of football that wasn't very memorable, let's put it that way. A really dull and boring game of football considering a lot of Evertonians made the trip down to Watford last night, myself included, Ned included, who was in the live comments already. And as I said, not a very memorable game of football whatsoever. Quite a dull performance, poor performance from Everton. Listen, it has to be said, although, you know, I believe that we shouldn't get too caught up in this. And that we really do have to let this game go now and leave this game behind us. And that's part and parcel of the reason as to why I'm doing the review tonight. And it's a little bit later than it usually would be because I was going to leave it until tomorrow. And then I thought, no, do you know what? Tomorrow's a Friday. You know, we've got a massive game at the weekend against Brentford. I want, you know, the next couple of days to be positive and looking at, you know, the Brentford game positively and building ourselves up and hyping ourselves up for what is a really, really important day in the history of Everton Football Club. I don't want to have to be sitting here and revisiting, you know, what was an extremely boring and dull game of football and quite a poor performance from Everton, you know, last night. Albeit defensively, I thought we were okay. I thought we were solid. I thought we we were compact. I thought we kept the ball relatively well. You know, let's be honest, we should have been doing a lot better against a second-string Norwich side. A second-string Watford side. And not only a second-string Watford side, but even if it was Watford's first team, they've just been relegated from the Premier League. I don't think they've kept a clean sheet all season. They haven't, they've lost, I think, 11 out of their last 12 home games on the bounce as well. So you really should have been doing more yesterday, and we really should have been creating more. I thought the wide players were poor. Damari Gray and Anthony Gordon, you know, both worked hard, both put themselves about, but in regards to what they were on the pitch to do, which was create opportunities, create chances, and ultimately, you know, give Richarlison and then Dominic Calvert-Lewin, when he come on later on in the game, something to work off of. I think they failed in that department against the, you know, quite a poor Watford team who had obviously nothing to play for. Now, I did say in the preview on Tuesday that this will be a Watford team that have got a weight off of their shoulder and have got absolutely no pressure whatsoever, and the reason for that is because they've already been relegated. So there isn't that sort of constant thought of, oh, if we don't win today, then we could go down, or if we don't get a point today, or if we don't score, you know, we could go down. It's almost over for them now, and we see this often with teams in the Premier League over the years, is when they're officially relegated and when, you know they're relegated with still a couple of games to go. Those couple of games tend to be some of the best performances of the season because they've got no worry, they've got no pressure, they've got no weight. It's all been lifted, it's done now. They can just enjoy those last couple of games. And I said it in the instant match reaction earlier on, you know, that game last night will likely be the last Premier League game a lot of these Watford players will play for a long time, if not ever. And obviously it was a big opportunity for those fringe players of that Watford squad to get in there and show their new manager, who obviously they've just employed from Forest Green, which is a bit mad, what they can do and what they can bring and why they deserve an opportunity over some of the players that obviously are currently out with injuries and illnesses and whatever else. So it was always going to be a difficult game. You know, we knew it was never just going to be a turn up and wipe the floor with them and walk all over them. I also think it's important to remember how bad Everton have been away from home this season. You know, I found it interesting going through social media and Twitter and stuff this afternoon and today, and seeing people saying, how didn't we put them to the sword? They're awful, this, that and the other. We should have been this. And I agree with all of that. But let's not forget, this is an Everton team that prior to Sunday against Leicester, the last time we'd picked up a point away from home was in December against Chelsea 5 months ago. The last time we'd won a game away from home was in August against Brighton. Now, obviously, we had a massive win on Sunday against Leicester, and I get that the momentum and the confidence and, you know, how big a win would have been yesterday should have been enough to drive these players to go out there and get a win. And you know, we have the quality on the pitch to be able to create the chances. But, you know, it's important that we don't try and get too ahead of ourselves here, and don't forget that we've been disgraceful away from home this season. Our form has been absolutely awful. So 4 points out of the 2 away games that we've just had, you know, 7 points out of Chelsea at home, Leicester away and Watford away, I think are 7 points that, had you have asked, myself and probably everybody watching and the majority of Evertonians, after that game against Leicester at Goodison Park, if you'd take 7 points from the next 3 games, I'm sure a lot of Evertonians would have snatched your hand off for it. And I think it's really, really interesting, because I said before the Leicester game that I think that if we can get a point against Leicester away and 3 against Watford, then that would be suffice. That would be fantastic. Obviously it wouldn't be perfect, but it would be fantastic. And we've gotten 3 against Leicester and 1 against Watford, which is the same tally, but also, it seems a little bit less appealing. It's a little bit less satisfying, and I think that's because the harder game was quite evidently the Leicester game, and this one yesterday should have been the one that we won and won comfortably. But listen, we didn't lose. We kept a clean sheet. We got a point, and whilst I understand it was against Watford's second team, and whilst I understand they haven't kept a clean sheet all season, and they've lost 12 of the last 12 home games, I understand all of that. The reality is we're still an Everton team that have got a distinct lack of quality in there, a distinct lack of players that make the right decisions in the final third, and are still the same players that I've got us in this situation in the first place. Yes, the last couple of weeks we've been absolutely brilliant, and the fight and the desire and the passion and the quality has shone through, and we've got some really, really big results. But I think yesterday we had a little bit of a reminder of how poor this Everton team can perform, really. But I don't think it was out of a lack of desire or a lack of commitment or a lack of care or a lack of energy. I think it was more out of tiredness, fatigue, and just that little bit of lack of quality. We didn't really have anybody to to pull through yesterday, and which is a shame, because a win yesterday would have been a massive step, an absolutely massive step. I think it would have meant that we'd have only had to have matched Leeds' result this weekend, which means if they if they'd have lost, if they lose at the weekend, had we have won yesterday, it wouldn't have mattered what our result was. We'd have been safe. Now obviously we've got to go out and win, and we still mathematically can be safe at the weekend, but it means we have to win and rely on Leeds losing, and Leeds have got I don't want to say an easy game, but a significantly easier than the one that they just had yesterday in Brighton at home. Brighton obviously have got absolutely nothing to play for. Burnley have got a tough game at the weekend. They played Tottenham, who have just absolutely battered Arsenal tonight, comfortably beating them 3-0 in the derby, so that'll be a difficult game for Burnley. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. It's about Everton. And I am a little bit nervy going into Sunday, because I'll be interested to see how Frank Lampard sets up. I think yesterday showed that Frank Lampard has got a lot of trust in a select group of players and not much trust in the other players that are around the squad. Because I said before the game yesterday, it wouldn't surprise me if he made some changes. And as much as we sit here and say never change a winning team, or the team's playing well at the moment, players like Fabian Delph, I think we'd have got away with not starting yesterday and starting Alan instead, and maybe giving him a little bit of a rest. Damari Gray, Anthony Gordon, those are 2 players that could have come off at half time and nobody would have had a problem with. Anthony Gordon looked shattered after half an hour. Damari Gray was poor yesterday, but the manager still didn't opt to bring Dominic Calvert-Lewin on until the final 5-10 minutes. He still didn't opt to bring Dele on at all. We didn't even have El Ghazi on the bench. Options there that could have given us a little bit of fresh air yesterday, a little bit of fresh legs, and maybe could have come up with a winner. Again, the manager sort of stuck with the team. So, Sunday will be really, really interesting. Brentford will be a difficult game. They beat us obviously earlier on in the season away from home. They've got nothing to play for themselves, which is I suppose is good, because we've got everything to play for. Obviously, Frank Lampard's first game in charge of Everton was a win against Brentford at Goodison Park as well, and we showed in that game that we were capable of creating chances and taking them, and that's what we've got to show again on Sunday. We've got to be able to go out there and do that again. I know obviously the crowd will be up for it. There's already in place the plan to meet the players before the game and greet the coach on City Road and Goodison Road and stuff as well, which will be absolutely fantastic to be a part of and to see again. And I'm sure it will be very similar to Chelsea, but hopefully on a greater scale, because that's what it needs to be. The Chelsea game was massively important. The Leicester game was massively important. Yesterday was massively important, but Sunday against Brentford is one of the biggest games in the history of this football club, and we as Evertonians need to treat it like that, and I'm sure we will. I'm sure the atmosphere, the singing, the shouting, the smoke, I'm sure it'll all be absolutely unbelievable as it was before Chelsea, because ultimately this is the game that we could seal it. We could seal it on Sunday, get the 3 points, and then I think we'll be okay, because I don't see Leeds and Burnley, well, certainly not Leeds, picking up those points needed if we do get the 3 points. But if we don't get the 3 points, all of a sudden it piles a shitload of pressure onto the game against Crystal Palace. So ultimately it doesn't really matter what happens between Leeds and Burnley. It's about Everton going out and getting the 3 points, and that's what makes yesterday, I suppose, more frustrating, is the fact that we didn't capitalise on a really, really poor, injury-ridden team who offered nothing yesterday. Watford were absolutely atrocious. I don't think we had the better of the possession. I think the possession was quite even, but we certainly had the better of the chances in terms of going forward and creating opportunities. We certainly looked the more attacking side. We had 52% possession, so the possession was fairly even, but we had 16 shots to their 6, 5 on target, they had none. And we obviously, in the second half with the team, I'd love to have seen the stats of how much of the ball was spent in Watford's half in the second half, because we were really pushing to try and get a winner, but we just didn't have the quality on the pitch to do that. Now, I do think there was a little bit of tiredness, a little bit of fatigue that crept in. As I said, there was a couple of players there that were visibly absolutely shattered, and I'm sure Frank Lampard will have given the squad a couple of days off, or at least a couple of days of light training to make sure that doesn't occur on Sunday, because that can't occur on Sunday. On Sunday, we need a team full of players who are ready to battle and fight and give everything for 90 plus minutes without any sort of level of fatigue or any level of tiredness. We can't have players after half an hour looking shattered, or after 60 minutes looking knackered. We can't have that. Yes, we can have players that can come off and other players come on, but we need a 95-minute performance from everybody, and I'm sure Frank will understand that, and he'll understand the rest the players need to give that. But ultimately last night, listen, there isn't a lot to talk about whatsoever. We've done the instant match reaction and the player ratings earlier on today, and it was a 0-0 in the very sense of a 0-0. We had opportunities, of course. I think the two that really, really spring to mind were Richarlison's one, where he hits it with the outside of his foot, and to be fair, Ben Foster makes an absolutely wonderful save. It hits a deflection, and looks like it's looping over Ben Foster, and he manages to get an arm up and make the save. And at the Damari Gray one, where he linked up well with Alex Iwobi and then put the ball wide. And yes, he's stretching a little bit, to be fair to him, and he's on the stretch, but you really feel for a player of his ability, and the fact that he was one of the players that we were looking at to give us that something special yesterday. He should have been doing much more than that. Ned says in the comments the XG was 0.2 for Watford and 0.8 for Everton. So again, a very, very dull game, as I said. Other than those two opportunities for Everton, we had a couple of half chances. Anthony Gordon had an half chance where he hit it from far out, and Ben Foster made a comfortable save. I think we had a couple in the first half. Alex Iwobi went through on goal, and instead of having a shot, he looked up and sort of hesitated a little bit and tried to pass it off. Watford had a free kick which Jordan Pickford tipped over the bar, but I think it was going over anyway. And then he had a shot in the first half which was blasted straight over the bar. And other than that, it was very much like watching a game of football between two teams who felt like they were safe, really, or not safe to the sense of safe from relegation, but two teams that had very little to play for. Now, I don't think that was purpose. I must admit this. I don't think that this Everton team purposely put a performance in that was seemingly of a we've got really nothing to fight for here or nothing to battle for. I really do think it was a case of they were absolutely shattered. It might have been tactically from Frank Lampard. Look, we don't know. Frank Lampard might have gone out there and said to those players at half time, listen, yous are all absolutely shattered here, so just keep it compact, keep it tight, don't give anything silly away, don't overset yourself, don't overdo anything, because we need you all ready for Sunday. Just go out and see this game out, and if you get a point, take a point, and then we rest up and we go big on Sunday. That might have been the team talking. If that was the case, then it was job done for Frank Lampard. Frank Lampard might have been looking at it going, well, I can go for this and throw everything at it and tell the players to go and throw everything at it, but if then Anthony Gordon pulls up, or Damari Gray or Richarlison pulls up, then with one less player on Sunday. So again, it really was a dull game of football. No big chances created, as Ned says in the comments, for either team. As I said, the only one I can really think of, the two to be fair, I think that big chances stat is a little bit screwed, really, because the Damari Gray one is a massive opportunity. I've watched it again, and yes, he's on the outstretch, and I understand that, but if he gets that on target, Ben Foster is absolutely rooted to his goal line. He's not getting anywhere near it if he gets that on target. And the Richarlison one as well, that's the small margins, isn't it? They're the fine margins. They're the differences between winning a game and not winning a game. And it's the same way as that when Anthony Gordon took a shot against Manchester United and it took a deflection off the defender and went in. That's the small margin. On another day, that doesn't take a deflection and David De Gea makes a comfortable save. Or it does take a deflection and it goes out. On another day, Cesar Azpilicueta isn't caught fannying about with the ball on the edge of his box, and Richarlison doesn't get a comfortable finish, and we draw the game against Chelsea. So I suppose that's football, really. But my biggest problem with yesterday wasn't the fact that Damari Gray put his chance wide, or that Anthony Gordon, that Richarlison had his one saved, and it was a fantastic save by Ben Foster. It really was a fantastic save by Ben Foster. Because if you watch it again, it actually deflects off the defender's leg. I can't remember which defender it was, but it actually deflects off the defender's leg right in front of Ben Foster, and it's at sort of a decent enough height for the goalkeeper. And then when it deflects, it loops up, and he gets a really he gets a strong hand to it, Ben Foster, which is really good goalkeeping. But again, that wasn't my problem. My problem wasn't necessarily that we only created that those two chances were missed, because ultimately, as I said, that's football. In football, you sometimes you don't, those chances don't go in. It's the fact that we only created a couple of opportunities against the Watford team that we should have, but we should have been creating 4 or 5 of those chances in the game. And if you do create 4 or 5 of those chances, then you win the game, and you win the game rather comfortably. So that was my biggest sort of issue with yesterday. Wasn't that the two big opportunities that we did have were missed. It was the fact that we only really created those two against the Watford team that were injury ridden and already down. I think some of the decision making yesterday was poor from the wide players. And listen, I fully understand there'll be a lot of people watching, and there'll be some Evertonians watching who sort of just say, Cam, get over it, it's done now, the game's done. And this is why I wanted to do this live stream tonight. I get that it's a Thursday night at 10:15, and thank you to the 38 people that are watching. If you are enjoying, please leave a like. But I just wanted to address this game and get it out the way, because I'm sick of it already. I was down at Vicarage Road last night, and as I said, the game fully put me a kip on the way home. It was just absolutely strenuous, and I'm sick of it already. I've watched the highlights today to remind myself, and I just want to get it out my mind and focus on Sunday now. But the decision making from our forward players, certainly our wide players, I think you can exempt. You can leave Alex Iwobi out of it, although he was playing on the wing at times, and although again his decisions weren't particularly great, especially that one in the first half when he breaks into the box. For me, he's just got to put his foot through that. I mean, we've just seen Kevin De Bruyne's first goal last night against Wolves, and I'm not by any sense of the imagination comparing Kevin De Bruyne with Alex Iwobi, but Kevin De Bruyne gets in a similar position and he's not looking up, looking for who to pass to. He just laces his foot through it. And I think if Alex Iwobi laces his foot through that, then you never know. Can Ben Foster get down quick enough? If he does get down quick enough, can he hold the ball? Is it going to deflect to somebody? If Ben Foster makes the save, you go, well, fine, we've had the shot, we've had an opportunity, but you don't know that Ben Foster's going to make the save, whereas he doesn't. Iwobi, he sort of stops and looks for the pass instead, which is unselfish, and maybe he's thinking, have I got a better option here? But It's those little decisions that are the difference between you creating chances and not creating chances. I thought Demarai Gray's decision making yesterday was woeful, absolutely woeful, and I think it's been poor for a number of weeks, to be fair. Although I think Demarai Gray has worked hard and played relatively well over the last couple of weeks, I do think it has to be said his decision making has been poor. Anthony Gordon's decision making has been poor over the the last couple of games as well, and yesterday was the same. And that's I suppose that's where the frustration comes from. The frustration comes from the fact we were playing a woeful team who offered nothing in the game and were absolutely atrocious. And we had moments in the game. We didn't have big chances other than the Richarlison and the Gray one. But other than that, we didn't really create. We didn't create anything, but we had moments where we could have created something, but the wrong decision was made, and that's where the frustration comes, because we all know a win yesterday would have seen us okay. It wouldn't have mathematically seen us okay, but I don't think Leeds and Burnley, certainly not Leeds, would have picked up the relevant points needed to be able to catch us from that point. And then we'd have been going into Sunday thinking just get anything out of this and we'll be okay. Pardon me. And it's those poor decisions that really sort of leave you scratching your head thinking we need to do better there. We should be doing better. I think we had something like 13 corners, something like that. Ned, if you're still watching, you're the statistician. How many corners did we have that Anthony Gordon lashed to the back post, or lashed too close to the front post, or with free kicks that we had on the edge of the box where they were looped up and it was just comfortable for Ben Foster? I love Anthony Gordon. I think he's brilliant. I think his desire is great. I think his first touch is great. He's got a good footballing IQ. He's got a good brain. He's fast. He's got a good dribbler. But his final ball, his end product, his crosses into the box, his decision making in the final third, it all drastically needs to improve, and it will improve. He's still a young lad. He's still a young lad, and Anthony Gordon's the last player I'll sit here and criticise, because as I said earlier on today, if it wasn't for Anthony Gordon, we mightn't even be fighting for relegation. We might have been down by now if it wasn't for Anthony Gordon and his performances and his effort this season. But his decision making is poor. Ned says, don't know about corners, but Gordon had 1 out of 7 successful crosses. Final ball was horrific. Set pieces were abysmal. Yeah, and that's it. And listen, I've got no problem with Anthony Gordon not being able to take a corner. That's fine. I'm sure the majority of the team can't take corners, but you can't tell me that there's nobody in that team that can take a decent corner. And if Anthony Gordon is the best at taking corners in the team, then we may as well not have a corner. When we get a corner, we may as well just give it to the opposition for the goal kick, because the corners aren't good enough. Give it to Vitaly Mikalenko. Let him loop one in. Let Iwobi go out there and loop one in. Iwobi can put a ball in. He put a really good cross into Anthony Gordon earlier on in the game, and he volleyed it into the stands. Surely Iwobi can go and put a ball in, or if Dele Alli can do that, then get Dele Alli on and get him putting balls into the box. Again, it's those decisions in the final third that ultimately what depend on whether you win a game or you don't win a game. And yesterday I just don't think they were good enough, but ultimately, look, the argument is there to be had that the decisions were poor because they come from a team that have given so much over the last 2 games and exerted so much that it was a case of tiredness and fatigue yesterday, and maybe Frank Lampard knew that, and as I said, maybe Frank Lampard's sort of tactic and thought going into yesterday was to get out of there with at least a point, clean sheet, and then obviously focus everything on Sunday, where we'll have had an extra couple of days rest. We'll be at home. Frank Lampard has openly admitted and acknowledged that we're much better at home than we are away from home. And the fans will be there to give that push, and I'm sure the players' performance will be much more energetic on Sunday than it was yesterday, and it has to be much more energetic on Sunday than it was yesterday, because we need to win on Sunday. But you have to try and look positively at these things, and some people won't want to do that. Some people, I've seen some people say, I'm sorry, but you can't look positively at drawing to that Watford team. You can't, there's no good way of looking at it. But the reality is, we're not fighting for the Champions League. If we were Arsenal or we were Tottenham, then I'd sit here and go, do you know what? Thomas says, Cam, you're not going no more, lad. Last time I seen you was at Spurs. I'm going to Arsenal last game of the season, but hopefully it's done by then. if we were Arsenal or Spurs or, Chelsea or somebody fighting at City and go, yeah, do you know what, that isn't good enough, that's shite. That still wasn't good enough yesterday, don't get me wrong, and we should have been winning that game, and we should have been taking advantage of a woeful Watford team, and that's what this very much feels like. I'm toying at the idea in my head whether this is 2 points dropped or 1 point gained. I'm thinking 2 points dropped because they're such a bad side and they were awful yesterday, and we didn't take advantage of that, and we didn't take advantage of what would have been a 3 points. That would have been absolutely massive. But then I'm also looking at it and thinking, Cam, you're talking about the same Everton team who before Sunday hadn't picked up a point away from home since December, had only won 1 game away from home all season. Does one win against Leicester all of a sudden change the fact that we should be beating this team, we should be beating that team? And some people say that doesn't matter. We should have been beating the team that was put in front of us, and we should have yesterday. But I'm also understanding that 4 points out of 2 away games for Everton Football Club this season in the situation that we're in isn't a bad return whatsoever. Ultimately it is frustrating because they were there for the taking. It is frustrating because it was our own, poor decisions and lack of creativity and lack of chances created that ultimately were the difference between us winning and not winning that game. It is. I get it completely. I completely get it. But the reality is that 4 points out of Watford and Leicester, 7 out of Chelsea, Watford and Leicester, 7 big points, and 7 points that ultimately put us 2 points clear of the 2 teams that are below us. Understanding that if we win on Sunday and Leeds don't win, then it's practically done, because that would put us even if Leeds is a draw, it would put us 4 points above them with a game to go for Leeds. It would, wouldn't it? With 2 points now, we win, we go 5, they draw, -1, so 4 points above them with a game to go. So if we win, Leeds have to win, or Leeds obviously play before us, so Leeds we will know what the Leeds result is prior to the game. So it does leave a little bit more pressure on Sunday. It does leave Sunday being much more important than it maybe needed to be. But the reality of the situation is, as I said, if you'd have said to me before Leicester, can you take 4 points out the next 2 away games, I think the majority of Evertonians would have snatched your hand off for that. It was frustrating. It was disappointing. It did feel like an opportunity, a missed opportunity, an opportunity lost, and it was a fucking long coach journey home, by the way. A long coach journey home. But it means we've got it all to play for now on Sunday, and it means that we've got absolutely no excuse. And by we, I mean us as Evertonians. I mean the fans. I mean the players as players. I mean Frank Lampard as the manager. Nobody associated with this football club has got any excuse to not make Sunday one of the most memorable days in the history of this football club. The fans, if you can get down early before the game, I'll be there, Ned will be there. I'm sure there'll be thousands upon thousands of Evertonians there greeting that coach as it comes down City Road and into Goodison. I'm sure it'll be better than it was against Chelsea, because it has to be better than it was against Chelsea, because we need to step it up a level. I'm sure, there'll be smoke, there'll be chanting, there'll be screaming, there'll be shouting, and I'm sure that atmosphere will move into the stadium as well. One thing I will say about yesterday is the atmosphere was fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and I'm not just saying that in a biased sense because I was there, but the away fans were brilliant. We never stopped, even from when the players were training, and warming up before the game. It was just electric, absolutely electric, and you can tell the players were feeding off of that. And as I said, I don't think yesterday was through a lack of ambition or desire or commitment, and it didn't feel like it was these players have given up, or they're not arsed, or they're not interested. It did just feel like a lack of quality and players that are absolutely shattered. And sometimes when you haven't got that quality in your team, and the players that you have got are knackered, then you can put performances in that look like that. When players are fit and rejuvenated and energised and up for the fight and up for the battle, even if you haven't got quality, it can come through, because of that. But when you're struggling with quality anyway, and the players you've got on the pitch is shattered, then you do get games of football like that. And it was just a woeful game of football. As I said, usually we sit here for an hour and a half plus talking about, in reviews to games. But yesterday, and it wasn't even because it was a 0-0. There just wasn't much to talk about, and that's why I wanted to do this live stream tonight, because I didn't want to sit on it for another day. I want to sit here tomorrow doing the preview to Brentford, talking about how amazing Brentford needs to be, how amazing the greeting of the coach will be before the game, how amazing the atmosphere needs to be at Goodison, how these players need to react to that, how big a win on Saturday could be, Sunday could be. It could be that big that it keeps us up. It mightn't, because Leeds might win, but it could be that big that we all sit there and go, that's it now, we're okay, we're safe. We can finally calm down a little bit and let the nerves settle. But one thing is for absolute certain, regardless of Leeds' result on Sunday, regardless of Burnley's result on Sunday, Everton need to win. It's as simple as that. Everton need to beat Brentford. I will not sit here and accept any other result as a positive. I won't. And I'm not saying yesterday was a positive, but what I'm saying is it was a shite game of football that we just should all put behind us now and never ever think about again. Never ever think about again. And I think a really good point was made on Twitter yesterday, is if we are to go down from this point, it will have very little to do with yesterday. Yes, people will go, oh, well, the Watford game was a game that we should have taken advantage of, but so was Burnley, so was Newcastle away, so was Palace at home, so was Brentford away. If we are to go down from this point, it will have very little to do with Watford. It will have more to do with the next two home games, and the next two home games need to be absolutely, they just need to be unbelievable from all aspects of the football club, the fans, the players, the manager, and I'm sure Brentford will be. Brentford are a good side, they've got quality there, but they've shown many a times this season that they're there for the taking, and they've shown it at Goodison Park in the FA Cup in Lampard's first game. They weren't really up for the fight, they weren't really up for the battle, they were almost just there to take part. They've got nothing to play for, they're safe now. Rob, who's a Brentford fan, says we're relegating Leeds next week, which would lead me to believe that Brentford will allow Everton to win, which I'm sure they won't, but I think Brentford play Leeds next week actually, but Everton have ultimately just got to do our job against, as I said, the Brentford side that are a good team. But I said it before Watford, I said it before Leicester, I say it again, and it might sound like I'm repeating myself, but it's because what I'm about to say, it applies again on Sunday. I am not accepting that Brentford and those Brentford players will want it more than those Everton players. And by that, what I mean is I'm not accepting that those Brentford players are willing to fight and battle and show more commitment and show more desire than those Everton players are. I'm not accepting it. Yes, we might still seem a little bit leggy because, again, I'm sure the majority of players that played yesterday will play again on Sunday, and it isn't a game to be there for the taking. They're a good side. They've got quality. They showed that at Stamford Bridge this season. They've showed it many times before. But we've also shown against this very same Brentford team that if we apply ourselves in the right way, the right manner, we battle, we give everything, they can be beaten. And ultimately, we've done it in an FA Cup 4th round or whatever it was, which was, Lampard's first game and an important game and all of that. But let's be honest, nowhere near as important as what Sunday is. Nowhere near as important as what Sunday is. And yeah, as I said, there just isn't much to say about yesterday. I thought Iwobi was really good. I will say that. Again, going forward, he didn't really offer an awful lot, and to be fair, he hasn't. I don't really think that's been his task recently. I don't think his task recently has been to offer an awful lot going forward, because he didn't really offer an awful lot, going forward against Leicester or against Chelsea. But his work rate is phenomenal, and his work rate again yesterday was absolutely phenomenal. But his defensive work as well, he's getting back. He's helping out Seamus Coleman. He's almost acting like a second right back at times, and maybe that didn't play into our advantage yesterday, because maybe we didn't need a second right back yesterday, because we were ultimately playing against a Watford team that didn't really require us to have two right backs, did it? Let's be honest. Leaving Seamus Coleman there on his own would have probably been enough. We'd have probably been okay with with just the one. But the reality of the situation is that's where Iwobi's been playing recently, and he's been playing well. And again, yesterday, I think he done really, really well. He battled, he worked hard, he got back a couple of times, he set the pace with for the rest of his teammates to match. And I thought he was our man of the match, albeit it wasn't anything sort of a special performance. It wasn't one where you look at and go, oh my god, he was unbeatable today. But he just worked hard. He used his strength, he used his pace, he defended well when he needed to, he battled when he needed to, and he was the standout. Now that tells you that it wasn't that great of a performance. Not that Iwobi was the standout, because Iwobi's been brilliant for weeks, but that, a player who was just sort of battled, worked hard, done what he needed to do, shown his pace, was the standout performer. And that, that shows that there wasn't a lot in the game. But I do think he was really good yesterday. I thought Vitaly Mykolenko was sound. I thought the entire defence was sound, to be fair. I think that's one big positive we can take out of yesterday is Vitaly Mykolenko. I was going to say Yerry Mina then, I wish. Michael Keane, Mason Holgate and Seamus Coleman. Other than Seamus being arguably the most frustrating player I've ever watched going forward as an Everton fan, because every time he goes forward, he seems to have this switch in his brain which says, I'm playing rugby, and he can't make a forward pass. Every single time he goes forward, it's going back and almost sort of stopping the attack or slowing down the attack. But defensively, I thought he was absolutely sound. And as I said, although Michael Keane and Mason Holgate didn't have an awful lot to deal with, and saying didn't have an awful lot is quite an overstatement. They had F all to deal with, let's be honest. They done well, they handled themselves well, they put their bodies in the line when they needed to. Passing was good, they were calm, they were cool, they were collected. As I said, Mykolenko, again, final ball wasn't great, but we're still getting forward, we're still getting in those positions, we're still making himself a threat, we're still putting himself about, we're still, getting to the ball, and I think he looked more confident going forward yesterday than maybe he has done in recent weeks. The midfield, we've done their job as to what they needed to. Yesterday was different, and I suppose one thing that maybe leaves a little bit to be desired ahead of Sunday, and maybe leaves a little bit of nerve and anxiety ahead of Sunday, is that what we saw yesterday was an Everton performance of a team that what Watford done to us effectively was what we did to Chelsea, and what we did to Leicester, and what we've done to many teams this season, and that was shut up shop, sit everyone behind the ball, defend in a compact manner, and stop the other team from creating chances and from breaking you down. And we sort of, I think we're caught in the two minds of, right, this is how we've been performing recently, and this is what's been working, i.e., not having the ball, hitting teams on the counter-attack, defending really well and being really compact, and the midfielders being used to sort of be battling rams in there, really. Because that's what Fabian Delph and Abdoulaye Doucouré have been recently. They've not been possession ball carriers, have they? They've just been get in there and, cause a problem and cause a disruption. Whereas yesterday, although we only had a bit more possession than Watford at the end, we were the more in control of the game, especially in that second half. We were the more attacking team, we were the more offensive team, and it almost seemed at times like this Everton team struggled to switch between their usual style of not being the more attacking and more offensive team, and then ultimately coming up against a team that actually said, no, yeah, you have the ball, you break us down, it's on you to create. And we were almost a bit like, oh shit, what do we do here? We don't. It's almost like we perform better and we create more when we're against a team where we're going to get fewer chances and where, we've got less of the ball, than when we're against a team and where we've got more of the ball and when we've got more attacking freedom. And that'll be interesting ahead of Sunday, because although I think Brentford are a better team than Watford, I can see Sunday being similar in the sense of that we don't we have more of the ball and we have more of the control of the game. Now, obviously, Sunday is a lot different because it's at Goodison Park, and I'm sure that the 40-odd thousand Evertonians screaming and shouting will push the team to create more and to be better and to do more. But I just thought that was interesting yesterday, as we seemed to struggle when we were given the sort of responsibility to create and the responsibility to, go out there and win the game ultimately. Against Leicester, they started really well, had a really bright 5 minutes. We went and got one. Went 1-0 up. They then equalised, and again had a bit of a bright spell. We went and then made it 2-1, and then for the rest of the game it was Leicester getting forward, trying to create, and then we'd get forward on the counter attack, have a couple of chances, but the majority of it was Leicester in possession, Leicester trying to create, Leicester being the offensive team, whereas yesterday it was Everton being the offensive team, and we just didn't look on it. Now, okay, again, I go back to the point I keep making. Okay, the players might have been tired, there might have been a little bit of fatigue, a little bit of legginess, if that's even a word, going on, which would explain it, but there can't be any of that on Sunday. If we're given, if it's the same on Sunday and we're given the ball and we're given the freedom to create, then it's got to be like it was against Brentford on Frank Lampard's debut, where we're just free-flowing, getting forward, creating chances, creating opportunities and taking them, because we can do it. This team have shown they can do it before. We've done it against Leeds. We could have had 6 or 7 against Leeds. We won that game 3-0 and blew them out the park. We've done it against Brentford, as I said, in the Cup, won that game, 4-0? And again, it was comfortable. That's the type of performance we need to put in on Sunday, but also understanding that we've still got to be compact defensively, and we still need to avoid making any defensive mistakes, because what we don't want is Brentford to go 1-0 up out of a defensive mistake, stick everyone behind the ball, and then it be very much, right, you break us down now, you try and create, and then we struggle to create, because that's where we've really struggled this season, when teams have almost done what we do to teams and stick everyone behind the ball, and then it's been up to Everton to create the chance. It's been up to Everton to break a team down. That's where I think we've really struggled, because we just seem so unlikely to do that. And I think yesterday we seemed so unlikely to do that. Ultimately, listen, I love Anthony Gordon, I love Damari Gray, and I think they've been brilliant recently, but their jobs yesterday were to break down a really poor Watford team with nothing to play for, and they couldn't do it, which is part and parcel of the reason as to why it was such a frustrating performance. But as I said, again, it was just a shocking game of football. It really, really was a shocking game of football. It was diabolical, absolutely diabolical. For 90 minutes, as I said, we had 2 chances, 2 opportunities. The Gray one, which is, again, he should do better, and the Richarlison one, which is a great save by Ben Foster. Other than that, and a couple of, I wouldn't even say half chances, I'd say quarter chances. There wasn't anything. They didn't have a single shot on target, and from what I recall, the shots they had off target were wildly off target. It wasn't like they were close or they caused Jordan Pickford any problems. He didn't have to do anything. He had to come out, rush out of his goal once and make a sliding challenge outside the box, and he did it. And other than that, and defending a couple of wild long balls, he didn't have anything to do really, Jordan. Should Frank Lampard have made a change earlier on? I would have, personally. I'd have had Dominic Calvert-Lewin on at half time, to be honest, for Damari Gray, because I think we could tell at half time that both Gray and Gordon were absolutely shattered. And fine, if you don't want to bring, if you don't want to take them both off, fine, take one of them off, put Dom on, and put Richarlison on the wing. And I know some people will go, well, Dom come on and didn't do anything, but he was on for 10 minutes, something like that. And actually, if you watch the game again, which nobody will because nobody wants to, he held the ball up relatively well. He had the ball hit at him a couple of times, and he took it down, he chested it down well, he controlled it well. And yet he didn't create anything, or he wasn't on the end of it, but he didn't have anything created for him. It's not like he had 3 crosses lashed in at perfect height into the box and he headed them wide or he headed them over. He didn't have anything created for him. Had he have been on for 45 minutes, maybe 1 or 2 of those corners, maybe he would have got something out of them. And again, listen, the deliveries into the box yesterday from Gordon, Gray, Mikalenko, whoever it was, were fucking woeful, absolutely woeful. But maybe Dom had been able to do something there, and then you bring a Dele Alli on with 15-20 minutes to go. But that's where it makes me sort of think, well, maybe Frank, and this sounds a bit mad to say because of how big of a win would have been yesterday, and how healthy that would have been for the table. Maybe Frank was in the mindset of, do you know what, just keep this compact and come away with the point. Because I was saying to my dad before, if Everton would have gone gung-ho and gone for it and brought Dele on and brought Dom on earlier, and I'm absolutely gone at them, and then Watford have done what we've done to teams this season and hit us on the counter-attack and scored and made it 1-0, and then we would have failed to break them down, as we did anyway, then we'd have been sitting here saying we've lost the game there, that if we'd have just stayed compact and clever, we wouldn't have lost. So maybe Frank was looking at it and thinking, do you know what? We're on top. We're with a better side. We still look calm defensively. I'm just going to leave it at this. I'm not going to go too gung-ho because that might leave us too open. And that might, again, it might go the other way then. And they might get a chance on the counter. And, again, put one past us and it might be a loss. So I'll just leave it at this and then get a point out of it. 4 points out of 2 away games, and then we go to Brentford and everything's on that, really. I don't know, but that's the only thing I can think of, the only sort of realistic outcome for Frank Lampard I can think of, because for me I'd have changed it much earlier than he did, and listen, we didn't have an awful lot on the bench. I'd have brought Dele on. But maybe Dele will start on Sunday. Maybe he's going to change it up in Dele. I don't know. The El Ghazi one's mad for me, because you look at a player like El Ghazi, and obviously we haven't seen anything of him in an Everton shirt. We've seen him for 5-10 minutes against Leeds or something like that. He come on in a cameo, but you just look at what El Ghazi is as a footballer in a very natural sense. He's a quick winger. He can score goals, he can take players on, he's got pace, and he would cause a problem for a defence in the sense that they would be looking at him thinking, hang on, we don't really know much. He hasn't really played much this play, so we don't really know much about what he's got to give or what he can bring or this, that and the other. And he would have given them something to think about, Watford. For them to not even be on the bench and not to have been on the bench for, 4 out the last 5 games or whatever it is. Again, what a pointless signing. A pointless signing. He must be woeful insane. For him to not even get a place on the bench is really, really worrying, and really worrying for him and his career, and especially given that, imagine we'd have had El Ghazi to bring on for 15 minutes yesterday. They've just lifted the place a bit, because people have been thinking, do you know what, maybe this lad can go out and prove something, maybe this lad can be a hero, and he's the only natural wide replacement we've got. So when we're all sitting here and saying Gordon and Gray aren't doing, good enough in terms of their creativity and psychological projectionist, which is a mad tongue twist of a name, says 0.23 versus 0.81 on XG. I think Anthony needs a rest. That's fine, but the only options we've got then is Richarlison to go out wide and Dom to go up front, which is fine, because I think Richarlison is better on the wing, and I think Dom being back in this team isn't necessarily an awful thing, although he hasn't been great recently. But then I also look at that and go, is Richarlison a massive creator? Is he known for lashing balls into the box and getting assists? Not really. So is he going to create much for Dom? And listen, I do think Richarlison is better on the wing than he is up front. And I think that might be the team we see on Sunday, whether it's Gray or Gordon in the other space, I don't know. But just having an El Ghazi to come on there and come off for Gray, natural replacement, or come off, have Gray come off for Dom, put Dom up front, and put El Ghazi on for Gordon, who was absolutely shattered yesterday. And then you've got fresh legs, you've got pace, you've got an injection of energy. I've seen some people say play Dele on the wing, but I don't think Dele's necessarily quick enough. But that doesn't mean he can't come on in the midfield and fill a space in the 10. Imagine then, yesterday, with 20 minutes to go, you've got Dom up front, you've got Richie on one wing, Gray's come off because he's shattered and being poor, Gordon's come off, you've got El Ghazi on the other wing, and you've got, maybe you bring, I don't know, Iwobi off, give him a bit of rest, and you put Ali in the 10, Dele in the 10. You've then got Dele, El Ghazi and Dom, 3 fresh, faces up front. You've still got your core of Delphin and Decore. Even if you brought Alan on instead, and maybe leave, I don't know, Gordon on there for Dele and stick stick Iwobi in the 10 instead. There's other options there, and for El Ghazi to not even be getting in this team, not only is it a massive waste of a transfer and a loan deal, and listen, I'm not going to go into the board and Mashiri's decision making and the influence of Kia, Jarabshian and all of that sort of nonsense, because I'm just not, that this isn't the situation for that. As I said, we're going to get this game out the way, and then we're going to look towards Brentford. It's not the time at the moment to be talking about board issues. We can have that conversation after the season, but for Frank to not even have him involved in the squad, again, I'd love to know what's going on there. And listen, if Frank's asked about him in a press conference, then he's going to say something along the lines of he's working hard, he needs to keep working hard, and then he'll be rewarded, like Carlo Ancelotti did last season with Josh King. Every week it was he's working hard, he's battling, he trains great, and he just needs to keep. But that clearly wasn't the truth, because Josh King wasn't in the side, it wasn't in the squad ever. I really want to know what's going on with El Ghazi, because as bad as he might be insane, and if he's not injured, you can't tell me that he doesn't at least improve one of those places on the bench. And you can't tell me that in situations like yesterday, he will offer less than what Damari Gray and Anthony Gordon were offering on the 60th, 70th minute, when they were both absolutely shattered and not offering anything. It baffles me a little bit. It baffles me. It really, really does. But anyway, Frank didn't make the changes. Well, he brought Dom on, obviously, but didn't bring Dele on, didn't have El Ghazi to bring on anyway. And look, we couldn't win the game. We couldn't win a game of football that was dreadful, and against a team that had already been relegated and had 36,000 players out injured. But it isn't the end of the world, and it's important to understand that it isn't the end of the world, and it's important to understand that Sunday is monumental now. Yesterday's done with, it's over. We drew 0-0 against Watford. If we stay up, I nearly said when we stay up then, but I'm not gonna think that. If we stay up, nobody will ever think about that Watford game ever again, and rightly so, because there's fuck all to think about, really. But it's all on Sunday now. Forget yesterday. It wasn't the worst result in the world. It wasn't the worst performance in the world. It was just very frustrating and very much felt like a missed opportunity. But as I said, prior to Sunday against Leicester, last time we'd picked up anything away was against Chelsea in December. So 4 points out the last 2 away games in a relegation scrap. It's not a bad return. We should be beating Brentford at home anyway. And if we do that, then I think we'll be okay. Yes, yesterday would have given us a massive lift in terms of a weight off our shoulder, but we haven't won it, so we've got to go and beat Brentford either way. So it's all eyes on Sunday now. We will be back with the live game preview to that game tomorrow, so don't forget to join us for that one. Really, really looking forward to talking about that one, because, as I said, it's got to be, it's potentially history defining on Sunday. And don't get me wrong, we could lose the next 2 games and still stay up, because Leeds might lose the next 2 games and Burnley's results mightn't go their way or whatever. But we could be mathematically safe if we win on Sunday, and we've got to win on Sunday. It's as simple as that. The fans have got to do their part, the players have got to do their part, the manager has got to do his part. I'm sure we'll hear from the manager tomorrow about the players and fitness and team morale and all of that sort of stuff when he does his press conference. But for this one being Watford, let's just forget about it now. It's done. Wasn't great. It wasn't awful. It could have been much worse. We could have lost the game and piled even more pressure on Sunday. We got a point. We had another clean sheet. It's another point on the tally. It's another point that takes us further away from Leeds and Burnley. And I suppose if we can think about it in any way, it's that on a night where Leeds lost heavily, Everton picked up a point, which, in this situation, sometimes it's those small margins that you have to take. As frustrating as it was, and as much of a missed opportunity as it was, sometimes you take those margins and you just think, you know what, we move on, and that's what we've got to do. We've got to forget about yesterday and move on. Time to swat on B says Semi, the game was crap, not the result, says Wonderlust. Yeah, the game was shite. The game was absolutely shite. It really, really was. David says, I need a driver. What, in terms of a driver who drives cars or a driver at a golf club? What are you after, Dave? What are you after? I sell both. I don't really sell both. Callum says, Arsenal result bad for us tonight. I don't think so. I hope, touch wood, that this situation is resolved before Arsenal. And I think it will be resolved before Arsenal, to be honest with you. I also think the top 4 race will be resolved before that game as well. But I don't want to be going into Arsenal last game of the season still needing to get something to come away with, to stay in this league. And I'm sure Frank Lampard and the players won't want that either. So they'll give everything for the next 2 games. Is Dele any good at passing and crossing and free kicks, says David? I don't know. I assume so. He was one of England's most talented players a couple of years ago, so I'm sure he can take a free kick and a corner. If you are enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching the YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below. Really do appreciate it. David says he needs a car driver. For what, mate? What you need? Onto the B, says Wonderlust. Absolutely maddening that we sold Dean a week before we sacked Rafa, says Semi. It was. El Ghazi Dean situation thing was us getting mugged off, and I don't blame El Ghazi. I don't either blame El Ghazi for that, but one thing I do think is, even if it was a situation where a player's come in because an agent's wanted to make some money and whatever, and the manager doesn't really favour him, you know, your manager's got what he's got. And if I'm Frank Lampard, I'm probably looking at El Ghazi now going, I didn't really want you here. You were here before I come here anyway. The other manager didn't really want you here, but you're here now, and if you can offer us anything, then you're gonna offer us something. And that makes me think he can't offer us anything, which is baffling considering he's a Premier League footballer who was beaten, proven before to be able to score goals, take players on, create chances. Semi says, like a getaway driver, mate. What are you into? Hit the like button, says Glenn. Thank you. Ned says, final offer driver. It's an inside joke, that, which is absolutely hilarious. I think the FC fans will be monstered against Brentford, says David. I hope so. Emily and Jordan says, hi, what's happening? Everton should have put Dele on for Anthony Gordon against Watford. Yeah, maybe. But as I said, maybe the manager was just thinking, see through this and get this over with. When will you do your first 11 predictions or your choices? That's today, says David. No, that'll be in the preview tomorrow. So don't forget to look out for that one, mate. Everton have revealed the coach route. It's on our Twitter if you want to check it out to get down on Sunday before the game. Wonderlust says, rugby's big in Ireland. I wonder if Chambers was originally wanting to get into that before footy. We have improved defensively, but we still need to be better at breaking up those teams who shut up shop. Spot on. Don't forget to leave a like. Cheers, Pokey. Paul says, saying that 7 points from the last 9 is brilliant. It is, considering our form before that. Cameron's the people's champ, says Sam. What's happening, Sam? The El Ghazi sign is madness, says Pokey. Showed some skill as well, says Derek. Awobi did show some skill. His footwork was brilliant yesterday. Brilliant. Paul says Dele would have been perfect for the second half. The pace of the game was slow, and he could have found that killer pass. Disappointing decision by Frank not to bring him in. Yeah, I also think that was what we could have done with as well. Just somebody with a little bit of quality, to find that sort of killer ball at the end of the game to really hurt Watford. You know, maybe we didn't necessarily need the pace and the power on the wing. Maybe we just need that bit of quality in there. So you know, ultimately it was disappointing. It was disappointing. Mad how you can carry a live stream on your own, lad, says Ned. Thank you very much, mate. I've been doing it for 4 years now, so it just rolls off the tongue. Ed says, really enjoyed your content this season. Cam, spot on assessment of this shit show of a season, mate. Up the Evans office. Thank you very much, mate. Our full assessment will be when we do the season review at the end of the season, but we've still got, you know, it could still potentially change, that season review between now and next and Sunday. Awobi a step double level, says Pokey. Derek says Awobi's been great, to be fair. He didn't have runners yesterday. He was often looking for the pass. Yes, spots on. Inside scoop from Rob. Nice one. Says Semi. There you go. Yeah, anyway, look, we are going to finish it up there then. As I said, certainly a game to forget, and it's important that we do forget it now. It's done. It's out the way. It's gone. Forget it. And now we move on to Sunday, which is massive, absolutely massive. As I said, we will be back with the game preview to that game tomorrow evening, so don't forget to join us for that one. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you watch a YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below. Massive, massive thank you to everybody for watching live. Really, really do appreciate all of your support. And yeah, forget about that. It's done now. We move on. Sunday is massive. If you can get down to the ground before the game, get down to the ground, greet the coach, bring your blue smoke, bring your voices, bring your screaming, your shouting, your energy, your flags, bring it all, and then transfer all of that into the ground, and let's make it double, 2 times, 5 times, 10 times better than it was against Chelsea. And let's hope the performance from the players is 10 times better than it was yesterday, because it wasn't good enough. And then, might be enough. Winning mightn't be enough, but one thing's for sure is we absolutely have to win anyway. So Sunday we move on to, let's keep positive. Let's keep, in a good frame of mind, in a positive frame of mind. Look at yesterday positively. 4 points out of 2 away games, a clean sheet and a point, which for this season is a really good result. Yes, it could have been better, but it's done now. We move on to Sunday, which is massive. But yeah, big thanks for watching. Nice one, Cam. Take care, everyone, says Semi. Cam, did you have Tuesday tea this week, says Glenn. Today I had... I went out for me tea, so I had an Italian pasta. Every pasta's Italian, but I had pasta from an Italian restaurant. Tomorrow I might be having another Tuesday tea, but I'll keep you updated, my mate. See about the Toffee, says Eugene is right. Iwobi looks like a new player under Lampard. Really suits the midfield, says Till. I agree. And 2 double triple, says Glenn. Anyway, big thank you for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues. Cheers for watching. See you after.